It's kind of Neolithic, it's primeval.
We're right on the tip of Africa here.
You are literally out in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by these massive mountains. You can see the back of Table Mountain, across the bay is Dungeons, and you're on this little finger of reef that's stretching super far out to sea. And you're sitting out there in the middle of nowhere, and these, just out of the deep come these monster big mountain peaks. Twiggy is the perfect breeding ground for big wave surfing. There is such a big variety of big surf, and there's just incredible stepping stones going all the way from the little beach break waves all the way up to Sunset and Dungeons.
From a big wave surfer's perspective, it's almost the ultimate training ground. There's that beautiful kind of curve where you can start at 6 feet and finish at 30 feet and everything in between.
I grew up surfing Long Beach, which is like a poor man's trestles, a little left and right.
Never been afraid to let go. I got my trigger finger aiming for success. Alright, you did your thing, I'm not impressed. Never gonna stop me.
Right next to that is Crons, which is a little beach break where we learn to barrel ride.
Break it, let it go. I got my trigger finger aiming for success. Alright, you did your thing, I'm not impressed.
And the most incredible thing about this bay that we have here off Komiki is on the one side is Sunset, on the other side is Dungeons.
If you want a perfect big wave, Sunset at 15 to 20 feet is as good as it gets. It's a really user-friendly big wave up to a certain size, and then over a certain size it becomes another beast entirely.
We've been surfing Sunset since the late 60s. And being a Grom in those days, I had to go with the big boys, you know. I wasn't going to sit on the beach, I'd paddle out. So whether I got a wave or didn't, I was out there. There weren't a lot of other guys around that were crazy enough. Dungeons has always been there. We used to drive up Chapman's Peak, look across, and you could see them blowing. You could see in the tube from the top of Chapman's Peak across. It's getting to Dungeons was always difficult. You'd have to go up through the back of Hart Bay, and then you'd have to paddle the gauntlet across the channel and out. Eventually, it got the better of the Button brothers and some of the other guys. I think Pierre might have been there as well. And that was the beginning of Dungeons.
In 1984, I came here to study. I was a student, I had no cash, so I got a job at Jonathan's factory. He was, at that point, making windsurfers big time, and surfboards, but mostly windsurfers. So I heard about Sunset from him. Jonathan told us about how heavy it was, he scared the hell out of us. And I think there might have even been guys before them. It's a well-known place, you know, but I think what happened was when boards got too short, people kind of lost interest in going surfing there. And that's what got me going. And then standing at Long Beach, looking at all those O's on the inside and Sunset barreling off at the back, there was never a question. We wanted to ride it.
People were watching it, and I think they inspired other people, and it grew from there, organically and quite slowly, until everybody started hitting Dungeons. And Dungeons is in another league of its own completely. I mean, that's the wildest, weirdest, most powerful thing that we've got in Africa, that's for sure.
If you're proficient at Dungeons as a surfer, you can pretty much tackle any big wave. You know, Dungeons is as challenging and critical and difficult a big wave as there is to surf.
When you paddle into a wave, you have no idea whether the wave is going to be flat, whether you're going to get a ship stern step halfway up the face of the wave, if it's going to slab. Every set is coming at different angles. Those that could be breaking 200 meters up the reef or 100 meters to your left, to your right. But most of the time, you're kind of just hoping you're in the right spot.
For me, on a personal level, I went from Dungeons to Mavericks, and I found Mavericks a lot easier to catch and ride.
When you paddle into a wave at Jaws, It is terrifying, but you have an idea of what the wave's going to do. When you're paddling into a wave at Dungeons, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Dungeons is so random. It's just it's not my favorite wave.
It's just a typical Cape Town wave. Cape Town waves are so raw and so unpredictable, but through all of that, you get such perfection. And if you get the perfect wave, your day is made for the next 5 years, basically.
I think Sunset has still got so much room for us to grow and sit deeper and go bigger. I was lucky enough to go to places like Hawaii from a very young age, and seeing how late you can take off on a wave at Backdoor and what those guys were doing, it was so inspiring. Also going to places like Nias and Mexico, Puerto Escondido, and learning how to take off under the lip on a super steep wave and just rail straight up into the tube. And from spending a few seasons at Jaws and seeing how those guys are taking off full backdooring massive barrels. For the last couple of years, I've been really trying to apply those principles to Sunset. I've done it on a few like 12, 15 foot wave, but yeah, to go do that on a 20, 25 foot day would be the dream.
There's the opportunity there to get just a mind-bending barrel, you know, on a really big wave. And no one's really done that at Jaws yet, and no one's really done that at Sunset at, you know, 20, 25 feet.
The thing with Sunset is when it's 25 foot plus, it's not like Jaws. You get waves like Jaws, you know, 1 in 20, 1 in 50, 1 in 100. So every time you're going to backdoor a peak on a 25 foot wave, there's probably a 95% chance that wave is going to shut down on you or do something funny.
Instead of being that beautiful peak, it's a massive wall, and it stretches like hundreds of meters across, and then it bends in on the reef.
There's a compression element that happens there when that peak starts sucking in on itself. Pulls you into it.
Suddenly, like, it feels like the whole ocean is alive. The water's moving kind of out towards Dungeons, and you're just paddling the whole time. I've towed it really big, but to be out there paddling, you'd have to put yourself behind the peak and pull straight up into that barrel if you're going to have any chance of making it.
One of us are going to do it soon, you know, but so once it hits 20 feet and over, it becomes a really dangerous, proper big wave.
One day, somebody's going to pull into a tube and it's going to blow the world away, but it's going to take some doing.
Not getting in the peak. That should be backdooring that thing. That should be backdooring it. Look at that spit. Look at that spit. Backdoor it now, you big Daphne. Oh yeah! Get right.